Oh. I don't know if we can handle all three.
We can throw Health and Human Services.
Sarah even told me yesterday she was going to be here.
Yeah, she told me last night she was going to be here. She doesn't show up, I'm leaving.
Is that how that works?
Not really. I don't think I could pull that one off.
You ready? Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the August 6th meeting of the Trinity County Board of Supervisors. If you will stand, will join me in the pledge led by Supervisor Frazier.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair, if I could, or even if I couldn't, if you will all join me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Supervisor Lutweiler. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Going down for pictures. We do it for everything.
All right, well, let's do a picture.
Let's do some pictures.
Let's do a picture. Thank you very much. When our family sings that song, it doesn't sound nearly as nice as it does when you do.
When our family sings that song, it doesn't quite sound like that.
Yeah, I bet.
Someday we'll try it my way.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We have two presentations today. By the way, Supervisor Carpenter Harris is almost here. As many of you probably experienced traveling 299 these days, there's always some sort of delay around the curve. The first presentation, I think we'll move around to number 2. And so allow for some other people to get here who probably have also been held up by traffic control. The second presentation is Health and Human Services Public Health. Receive a presentation from Health and Human Services Public Health Branch regarding the Trinity County Equity Strategic Plan. Hopefully we're ready for that.
We are.
Okay.
We're excited.
Sure.
I'm Marcy Jo Cadzo, Public Health Branch Director in our Health and Human Services Agency. Thank you, Chairman Lutweiler, and happy birthday. Thank you, supervisors. Yes, please. Thank you, Ashley. Next slide, please. So this is the team that will be presenting the Equity Strategic Plan today. Kirsten Ford is our Health Program Coordinator 3. Our contractors are Cameron Asher Brown and Sarah Maricos and Yvonne Zenois from Data Strategy Consulting. My job is to connect several dots for you today. And I am really excited to do that. We've been waiting a really long time to do this, and we're happy to be here. Next slide, please, Ashley. Thank you. Awesome. How did we get here? Driving factors. So we began to develop the second iteration of our strategic plan in 2023, and that occurred alongside the county strategic plan development. Our strategic plan is a requirement for accreditation. If I had to explain accreditation in the simplest terms, it would be to refer you to the graphic that's in the county strategic plan. That perfectly identifies what accreditation in our public health department is. The inputs of community input, plans, policies, data, moving toward, it's driving the budget and the work that we do. And then the continuous quality improvement that enters a wheel of effort. And for us, that wheel of effort are the 10 essential services of public health. I was not familiar with the terminology used in the county strategic plan. So I looked it up, I researched it a little bit. I'm going to have to read it because I haven't committed it to memory, the actual definition, but the concepts I know very well. Line of effort is one of several concepts viewed as a method of long-term visualization and allows for diverse interpretations by partners attributing to unity of effort when operating in complex systems. In the public health space, we know this language very well. We just call it something different. It is really, from a public health administration perspective, we know that it is a way of defining how complex systems operate within a complex environment. So, for example, our county public health department, we have our own program edicts, we have state and federal inputs that may be external to the county structure, but being within the county structure, we are responsive to the county as the overarching guiding environment that we operate in. The line, this concept in our county strategic plan has brought me a lot of joy, actually. Because it represents the anchor for everything that your public health services do. It points us toward the end state and allows us the diversity of effort to make that happen in the way that we do in public health systems. So I think I said it was the anchor. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I think because it's so important to my team that I get this right.
We have no question that you will. You're always
Thank
great.
you. So in essence, the question in the intel, so the first part of this package was the equity assessment. And really the equity assessment posed the question, because we need some intel to be able to move toward line of effort 1, county services, and ensuring county services for all areas of Trinity County. We really needed an environmental scan to see, what are we looking at? What are the barriers? What drives some of these health outcomes that we see? And how available are services? The strategic plan component is really responsive also to the line of effort 1, in that it technically operationalizes some of the efforts that we identified to address the key objective in line of effort 1 around county services. Both of these two pieces, the entire process of conducting these two pieces really speaks to line of effort 2. Of communication, engagement, partnerships, because of these two, we had to develop a strategic plan around how do we interact and engage multiple partners within our complex systems, multiple persons within our populations, community members, businesses. And so this really provided the avenue to do that. And so I'm going to introduce, with great pleasure, our health program coordinator 3, who's going to start us off with our presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Marcy. Good morning. Next slide, please. So before I go into what the plan is about or what its intentions are, I just want to spend some time sort of just defining what equity is. One of the things that we found to be really important throughout this whole process was to consistently and repetitively define this term. And you can read the definition that we use throughout the process on the slide. But really creating a common understanding around what equity in terms of health means helped us bridge gaps in understanding, but also foster really effective engagement and action amongst our stakeholders and partners. So the term equity, or the idea that equity is most often compared or linked to, is equality. And while both are means of achieving fairness, they really differ in how they do so. Equality calls for equal treatment of everyone, regardless of their needs or differences. Equity, on the other hand, recognizes that individuals and even communities face different circumstances and needs. And health equity specifically provides each person with the right number of tools and resources to really be as healthy as possible. Next slide, please. So what the equity strategic plan strives to do is really just lay a roadmap so that the systems that are designed to support people can do so through targeted efforts to reduce disparities and advance health equity. By leveraging community assets and partnerships and also aligning with other local plans, this plan creates a framework so that local efforts can move the needle. One really good example of alignment is the Trinity County Strategic Plan. In that plan, line of effort 1, objective 1 states that over the next 5 years, the county will strive to deliver essential health services that are accessible in all parts of the county. What the equity strategic plan outlines is really just key strategies that have been selected by committed partners and informed by communities to help achieve that goal. Next slide, please. So the creation of this plan was done through a really robust partnership of stakeholders. They're all listed here on the slide. But all of these partners were really committed to advancing health equity. And then the plan also utilized the findings from the Trinity County Equity Assessment, which was presented last year. And it really just strived to build out a framework that served the Trinity County residents who are most impacted by the priority areas of focus, which we'll go into in just a little bit. While this plan isn't a direct response to all of the community recommendations that we received throughout the initial assessment, it really just considers the resources and capacity that are available to our stakeholders and partners during the timeframe established. So now I'll introduce Yvonne, who is our partner at Data Strategy Consulting. She's online with us. Yvonne will summarize the components of the plan and what you can expect to see while you're reading it.
Good morning. I'll be talking about the plan components, priority areas of focus, and plan objectives. Next slide, please. We constructed the Health Equity Strategic Plan encompassing the following components: evidence-based guiding principles, multidisciplinary stakeholder engagement, a compelling vision of the future, an environmental assessment, priority areas of focus, including objectives and targeted strategies, and criteria for evaluation. I will elaborate upon these different components within the next slides. Next slide, please. The Health Equity Strategic Plan emphasizes the following guiding principles: alignment with existing equity efforts, sustainability through integration with community plans, expanding community awareness of health disparities and providing targeted outreach, and adaptability to an ever-evolving and changing equity landscape. The stakeholder body met routinely for 6 months to actively engage in all aspects of plan development, from establishing the priority areas of focus to then conducting the environmental assessment. It was really, really important that we had this level of engagement from them so that the strategic plan could truly be community-driven. The steering committee first began by establishing a compelling vision of the future community that they wanted and identifying features of that desired future state. They wished for a community that strategically utilizes data to address community deficits, promotes equitable healthcare access, invests in robust and sustainable workforce, is modern and technologically adept, and is fundamentally resilient. One of the most critical aspects of the work that the steering committee engaged in was conducting the environmental assessment. This really allowed us to identify some of the root causes behind the priority areas of focus, identify strengths that could be leveraged within the equity strategic plan, identify risks that need to be mitigated as we look at different potential interventions, and also identify existing opportunities that could be bolstered through work in the strategic plan. This detailed analysis provided the critical context that we then used to develop targeted objectives and strategies for the equity strategic plan. Next slide, please. The two priority areas of focus that were determined for the plan were mobilizing healthcare units to reach underserved regions and substance use disorder prevention resources. We came upon these because at the end of the health equity assessment, we identified 8 recommendation areas. So we broke those down into subcategories, and then as a steering committee body, we voted on the top 2 that we wanted to prioritize for work in the equity strategic plan. Next slide, please. Overall, the plan objectives that we created were really focused on bolstering critical partnerships, interventions that were going to support youth, and making some critical policy updates within the community so that we had the appropriate infrastructure in order to pursue these 2 priority areas of focus. Within mobilizing units, our objectives focus on building critical partnerships to expand mobile service delivery within the county. So this is essentially establishing the resource network that is necessary to support mobile unit infrastructure. Second, supporting existing interventions within the academic setting, particularly establishing dental mobile units within school systems. And a longer-term objective to establish consistent policy language for integrating mobile service delivery into the broader system of care. So this is really important for creating a framework and a consistent language around really integrating mobile unit services into all aspects of service delivery within the population. Again, we wanted to make sure that these objectives were time-bound, adaptable, and we identified partners that would be able to support us with individual objectives. Next slide, please. Our substance use prevention resources objectives focused on, again, bringing together multiple partners together to create a system of care that would really prioritize the critical prevention issues necessary to address substance use disorder. Working within the school system to prevent opioid-related fatalities, and also increasing Narcan education, and then also increasing access to treatment, prevention, and resources for hard-to-reach populations, something that was consistently cited within our equity assessment as being a very, very important objective, being able to reach those that are marginalized and in difficult-to-reach communities within the county. I will now hand it over to Cameron Brown to discuss some of our planned strategies.
All right, thanks, Yvonne. My name is Cameron. I've been contracting with Public Health Branch to help with accreditation efforts, and I will jump into how this connects to accreditation in a moment. First, we'll dive briefly into these strategies. These represent basically the finest level of detail of the plan, and they're the actions to achieve all the objectives. So each one of these can be connected to one of the objectives that Yvonne just described. For example, the first 3 are kind of around the establishing partnerships for the mobile health units. You can see one about the integration with county level policies and plans. There's actually a lot more objectives than these, but we don't want to go into all of them because that would take another 10 minutes. So the connection to accreditation is that every accredited health department needs a community health improvement plan. And these strategies are basically going to be the core of that plan. And the other element will be the community input that Yvonne and Kirsten mentioned. We want to hear from those hard to reach populations and from the youth, students especially, basically how to refine these strategies and do we need to update them based on what the community thinks. So this is all going toward the community health improvement plan for accreditation. And then I think I'll hand it over to Kirsten for the final steps and implementation.
Thank you. Perfect. So really moving forward, the equity assessment paired with the equity strategic plan are going to serve as critical stepping stones towards the larger community health improvement plan. The assessment and the plan together really provided our team with the tools and the knowledge that we needed to build a plan with our partners, really just tailored around the community needs and also a shared commitment to common goals. As a next step, our team will utilize the health systems collaborative to continuously engage with partners around strategic or innovative strategies to improve health equity and also refine and adjust timelines to really ensure that we have a sustained and feasible commitment to implementation. It's our hope that through this approach and over time, that we will be able to foster the systems and environments where every Trinity County resident has a chance to beat the odds and improve health outcomes person by person. Next slide, please. So to brush up on the equity assessment and to read the equity strategic plan, you can visit trinity-equity.com. And you can also reach out to us with questions or feedback at any time at trinityequity@trinitycounty.org. Thank you for your time and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions from? Okay, go ahead.
Too much treats on my, can you move those, please? Thank you. I just have a couple questions and then just kind of some commentary. Although I completely appreciate the efforts 100% and with like the, the dental van and those types of things. One of my concerns, and I guess this is a question that comes out of that, is what I've witnessed and kind of what I've observed over time, especially like during the times my kids were going to school and different things, is a lot of times with the mobile vans and coming, and that's great. I love it. It's helpful. Sometimes parents will then not make the effort to establish providership outside of those services that are established, and people get very comfortable with the idea that the school or that these services are going to be made available. And then when we had a situation like COVID, where everything stopped, a lot of these services that people had become very accustomed to being attached to school attendance just fell off the face of the earth for about a year or so. And there was a lot of things missed during that. And so as we build up more and more services, my question is, how do we guarantee that once people become accustomed to these services coming out to them or even being in part of their school year, how do we also at the same time encourage people to make sure that they have their own care providers? And this is an extra resource, not the resource. Can you help me understand how we hope to educate during this process?
Absolutely. Thank you, Supervisor Carpenter-Harris. This is kind of a one leg of a three-legged stool. So,
Okay.
and one of the things we'll do is we will provide you with the public health strategic plan, how we operate, because I think it might address some of those concerns and questions, which are absolutely appropriate, because we have multiple partners in our county. And so essentially the other kind of two legs of the stool is education and outreach, and then breaking down barriers and access through other systems. Our health element starts to identify some of those processes and means. When we look at, because we're talking about systems, the mobile units are one component of a system to ensure that the line of effort of county services, right, or whatever the service is, health services, that they're accessible to all. So it's one component of that. The important thing is then alongside that, the two other legs of the stool, other partners working together, right, to engage the community members, to educate. That's why we have community health workers to assist us with that, and to then help remove the barriers that exist with accessing those healthcare systems, whether it be dental health in our county. Does that help?
Yeah, it's just something that I just want to galvanize our ability to provide. And I worry that people become complacent and assuming that, oh, my children's eyes will be checked at school. Oh, their dental will be checked at school. And then when school's not there, they haven't, made proper accommodations for actually having like an in-house provider. And I've seen it, so I know that it happens. And I just want to make sure that we continue to tell people you need to also carry a portion of your responsibilities for yourself,
Yes,
ensuring long-term care for your family members.
understood, understood. Absolutely. That's why the line of effort too is so important in that engagement and outreach.
Yes. And then also, I just want to say I had an opportunity to attend one of the outreach meetings in Salyer, and I was very grateful for the outcome of that. And I felt like the people who were communicating their needs and desires were heard, heard, and not only heard, but understood, and that what they were sharing was absorbed and clearly has been put into the effort in this preparation of this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the dental part of this. And I see Arena's here, and our last meeting, I think we came to a roadblock that I don't know if it's surmountable or not, but the dental van is going to be on schedule for the end of this year, beginning of next year, which is a great thing. But in the interim, we need local dentists in Weaverville, even in Reading if possible, to kind of join hands with us with taking care of the underserved children of our community. And we can't find any dentists. We can't get any. And I don't know where to go from there, if this is helpful to us. But I think we've come to a hurdle that I'm not sure that we'll get over anytime quick, and we need to. So would this be a help to us? Can we leverage this in any way? Because we are, I think Arena will back this, kind of at that, where do we go next step? And, we certainly need some help in the interim of the school bus coming and kind of indoctrinating the kids and the parents into year-round dental health care. And there is some good things out of tone, and all those things are, good things, but to get people, nobody wants to go to the dentist, first of all. And then to get kids and parents to go, it's tough. And we just need to find some dentists here or in Reading, and we can't find either, it seems like, to join hands with us to get this part of the void kind of filled. So that was just kind of a response to you on that and where we stand, since we're both on the same committee. It's just something that we're going through, that we're trying to work through. It's a great committee. But this little hurdle that we're at now, or big hurdle that we're at now, is a tough one for us. So I'm just looking for any possible help to get somewhat year-round health care or oral health care for juveniles and their parents. That's it.
Thank you. I just had one thing that, again, I was on volunteer fire department for just maybe 18 months, but it was a very enlightening experience. And it was one of the reasons that I, in particular, championed getting the Healthy Communities strategy onto the strategic plan, because of what I experienced. And it's actually interesting that it happens on my birth date, because one of the most lasting memories was visiting someone for the second time and seeing this individual who was clearly in just very difficult health situation, clearly living in poverty, clearly not accessing healthcare for whatever reasons. And as I was taking the vitals, I realized I was writing down my birth date. And this person looked 2 decades older and less healthy. And I realized how spoiled I've been in having tremendous access to healthcare services throughout my life. Always had transportation, always had the funds, worked for companies that provided me executive healthcare services, all these things. And yet here was this stark difference. So one, it's just to emphasize the importance of this. And I love, that this is digging in so deeply into those issues. The other thing is, I'm always struck, like when I saw the partnerships, when I love seeing that was one of the things I had hoped would come out of this as well, was who are all these parties that can be involved? One that I did not see, or two, I guess it is the volunteer fire departments and the Trinity Life support the ambulance services, because what I realize is that we would often go into these situations, and I don't know if these, a lot of times they weren't then sent off in the ambulance to a healthcare provider service, but we saw what was the need and we understood what their situation was, but we're not professionals to know what to do about that. And so I hope that there's something that maybe is a little more behind the scenes than what's in this presentation, that those dots are being connected, because I think there's a huge opportunity. Did you want to comment?
I do, Supervisor Wheeler. Thank you. It was a very moving story. Thank you. And coming from an emergency background, our EMS and our fire, all of those are so important in our community. And I think so it's pieces and that unity of effort. So for me, I pull in the health element of the general plan, and there's really no one. There are governing entities, but when we're talking about emergency response in our county, it's the same really concept of, okay, we've got different parts that are complex within a complex system, and how do these complex parts become a system that reaches all county, all areas of the county and all people. In another county I worked in, part of that was pulling in a lot of private EMS systems and having an overarching vision and leader in that. There's no easy answer. I think, though, the one thing I know about Trinity County and all of us is that this is a very innovative county. And we are recognized at the state level for much of the work that we do. And I wanted to make sure you knew that, because that speaks to your leadership. So I think the way to do it is to really sit down, because working with those systems is how we reach those persons. And so how do we collectively engage those systems? And I think that's really, that leapt out at me in the health element in the draft. I really saw that effort being done, and understanding those pieces of that healthcare delivery system. I don't think that answers your question, because it's a really good one and it requires a lot of thought and a lot of strategy.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I know there are the HIPAA concerns of when the volunteer fire folks in Trinity Life Support are there with patients, there's confidentiality unless there's the right parameters that you would know and I don't. But I also know that there is this information and this knowledge that's being gathered, and whether it's in real time or it's just more holistically. And Supervisor Cox meets with all of the fire chiefs once a month as part of the Fire Chiefs Committee Association. And so if there's some way to maybe connect dots through that, just for information exchange and brainstorming, I'll just put that on the table. Thank you. Oh, Kirsten?
I have one final comment. I do want to say that I envision the equity strategic plan and the assessment as sort of a snapshot of the larger community health improvement plan. And that plan is really, it's designed to bring community members and health officials together to sort of develop a long-term plan that'll drive us into the future. And so I just want to say that there will be opportunities to make sure that we're engaging the entire health system, including first responders, to ensure that that plan is really well-rounded. So
Okay.
our work isn't done.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead,
I have one.
Supervisor Cox.
I didn't before, but after this little conversation, I do. And I'm just going to ask that offline, either, I don't know, Marcy, Kirsten, whoever is appropriate individual. So what occurs to me is when you were describing what you did about dental and how difficult it is to access, and my own personal experience with health coverage, dental is still hard to access. And so, you have your, what you engage with, where you are and what you do. And I wonder if where we are with folks we engage with, say RCRC or and I don't know that I want to see us try to legislate toward like the healthcare that we want, and yet it's being legislated against in certain respects, I think. And so that's like, I just want to open that up to say, I probably need to have that conversation to see, is there something that we can be doing in the places that we engage with to discover why is this happening? I mean, I think we could all agree healthcare in America isn't what it was 10 years ago. It certainly isn't what it was 30 years ago. What are the components? Why is it happening? And what maybe would you like to see us do to help engage on your behalf? So if we could, if you could inform me offline what you think those pieces are.
And thank you very much for this great work, and I would look forward to it continuing to evolve, and please let us know how we can be of assistance. Thank you. All right, we will move into the next presentation, which is receive an update from the U.S. Forest Service regarding matters that concern Trinity County. The whole crew here.
Good morning, everyone. You're going to get all of us today. What I discovered today is you learn a lot about yourself in traffic control. In the first one, I found myself to be a very patient person. By two, I figured out I was a growler and you wouldn't want to be sitting next to me at the third stop. So thank you very much for adjusting the schedule and allowing us to go second. We really appreciate it. As you know, I'm Tara Jones, District Ranger on the Trinity River Management Unit and the South Fork Management Unit.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Akridge, District Ranger for the National Recreation Area Management Unit.
And good morning, Ben Sundahl, Deputy District Ranger for the South Fork and Trinity River Management Unit.
So we're going to be starting off today with a little bit of an organizational update, and that pertains to the Trinity unit of the National Recreation Area. So for a long time, the Trinity River Management Unit and my management unit have sort of shared jurisdiction of Trinity Lake, where my team has handled planning, special uses, recreation planning, and Tara's team has led out on fire suppression and fuels operations and recreation operations around the lake. What that has created over time is a certain amount of confusion, both within the Forest Service and outside the Forest Service. And we've been working through some strategies to improve the management of Trinity Lake. And in order to do that, we plan to transfer management of Trinity Lake fully to the Trinity River Management Unit to improve clarity around who does what, to gain efficiencies by having a local workforce in Weaverville, leading out on all aspects of the management of Trinity Lake, and to improve the cohesiveness of the decision-making so that Trinity Lake can be managed in concert with the rest of the program of work for the Trinity River Management Unit. So you don't have two decision makers in sort of one piece of the county. This will also help us be more aligned by county within the Shasta-Trinity National Forest as a whole. So that's my piece of the puzzle. I'll pass it to Ben for the next step.
Okay, so the when. So the transfer of responsibility will be completed by May 1st, 2025. So what does that look like between now and then? So all new issues will come to the Trinity River Management Unit, the Weaverville District Office, and the staff there will direct those issues, those calls, those concerns either to Tara or I or the correct program manager. All existing projects and issues will continue to stay with Shasta Lake. So an example, Minersville, the trail around the lake, North Trinity County Community Risk Reduction Project, and Trinity Camps Project will remain with Shasta Lake through the planning phases.
And I get the how. This is kind of like the three-man weave, so I'm in my element here. We're going to put together a transition team with the agency, with the Forest Service, to identify how we're going to transition some of the administrative duties. As Ben said, the new issues will come right to the TRMU, and Sarah and I and Ben have already discussed any new fires or things. The line officers on the Trinity River Management Unit will handle the AA responsibility, so we'll be the contacts there. And the other thing we wanted you to know is this was a decision that we all sat down with Rachel Berkey and Carrie Otto and the three of us and really worked through it. And it's something the forest has kind of wrestled with for a while. And this is where we landed. We all support the plan and figure this is the best way that we can serve the public around Trinity Lake. So appreciate your patience for that long explanation. So I'm gonna, by the way, again, I have these notes all ready to send to you when I get back to my computer, so don't feel like you have to, I talk too fast anyway. Okay, planning, wanted to let you know the Bowerman project is continuing through the process. We're working at getting the BA through the review at the SO so we can get it to Fish and Wildlife Service. They have been really good to work with. They worked, things went very smoothly on the High and Palm project. That draft should be out very soon. And that, as you know, is 12,500 acres in around the community of High and Palm that was developed in close consultation with the High and Palm Fire Safe Council and Mr. Larry Winter. So looking forward to getting that draft out. August phase 2 should be signed this week. It'll authorize some more fire restoration work in the August complex footprint. We have a contract that's going there now, removing hazardous fuels and addressing some of those long-term restoration needs. The Big Ranch Community Risk Reduction project will have a field trip with the Trinity County Collaborative Group on August 23rd. There will also be a tribal field trip and there will be a public field trip out there. Those dates will be determined later. We expect the scoping for that will be out in early September. There's also a project at Junction City. The Junction City community reached out to us and sent us a letter saying some of the work that they'd like to see us address. And we have managed to increase our capacity a bit, fortunately, through the use of our partners. So the Watershed Center will be leading that NEPA charge for us in the community of Junction City. So that project will keep going and Big Ranch will also keep going and High and Palm. Additionally, we have a number of small NEPA projects that continue to move and pop up here and there, from fire cameras to community service district stuff. Those things continue to move through the system as well. All right, Sarah.
All right, I have a few projects to share updates on. First and foremost being our Trinity Camps project, which is due to be signed in the next couple of weeks. That's forest health and fuels reduction around our campgrounds and major infrastructure near Trinity Lake, which includes the Trinity Center Airport to help bring them into compliance with the FAA requirements for landing and takeoff. Up next on my list is the North Trinity County Community Risk Reduction Project, which is a long form for saying Highway 3, which is a little shorter, but not as descriptive in some ways about our intent. So we will be holding a field trip with the Trinity County Collaborative on August 16th. And in addition to that, we held a tribal field trip in July. And we will also be holding a public field trip to coincide with the scoping period, which should be coming up in September of this year. So lots going on around the lake there. I also wanted to share an update on Minersville. I know we haven't been as much in the public eye on that. We have been taking the public comment we received at the public meeting in the spring deeply into account and have been working to revise the engineering plans for Minersville so that when we do come out for a public scoping period, what the public sees is more in line with what folks want for the Minersville boat ramp. So that does take some time to work through with both our engineering team and the contractor. But my hope is that once we get through that process, we will be able to share something that will be something folks can be pleased about. So that is the goal there. Last but certainly not least, I wanted to speak to the Trinity Lake Trail at Stewart's Fork. That project is a long time coming. It should be signed in the next couple of weeks in terms of the NEPA side of that coin. It will still require an encroachment permit from Caltrans before it can be constructed. However, having complete NEPA is a big milestone towards getting the project done, and I'm very pleased to be making progress on that.
Quick update on the Good Neighbor Agreement. Modifications to the agreement continue to make its way through the system and should be up for signatures now. This agreement or modification adds approximately $1.5 million to the agreement.
All right, and then let's switch into implementation. So where are we out doing work? You know, we talk a lot about doing work. Everyone wants to see work get done. We're out doing work in the August fire footprint. We have that large IRSC. That's an integrated resource service contract. So there's still work going out in the August fire footprint. That continues. We also have started fuels reduction work in the Pettyjohn area, and that harvest with Trinity River Lumber should start soon. So we're looking forward to that. The Gemmel project, which is out in the Harrison Gulch area, has 1 unit left. That should get logged this summer as well. And the pilot roads and plantations project that has long been on the books. We should actually start some of that pre-commercial work this in September, so next month. And then the bulk of that project is going into an agreement with the Watershed Center. So we'll sign a supplemental project agreement with them under their masters, and they will help us get that implemented, 2,200 acres worth. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Recreation update. Basic upgrades have been made to Hobo Camp, including fire rings and new picnic tables. Trail work continues in the backcountry in the wilderness areas with our backcountry partners and trail crews. We are working with local tribal partners to do some routine upgrades and maintenance to Natural Bridge. And just a cool thing that happened at Natural Bridge in July was working between some of our tribal partners, a local rock climbing group that does work removing pre-existing climbing anchors, and then working with some of our heritage staff. We were able to get that climbing group out to Natural Bridge a few weekends ago and remove all the pre-existing climbing anchors off Natural Bridge to return to its natural state. So I really appreciate all that partner led effort there and the support from that local climbing community that came out there and did that work for us. So pretty exciting to see that. Special uses, currently working with the county to get the Cox Bar School permit across the finish line. Still with the county on some reviews of some inspections and paperwork. So our special uses staff is keeping tabs on that, and that hopefully should be finalized here shortly. We have shifted our the fire camera update. Fire camera permit as of yesterday went to the Washington office for review. So that is moving itself through the system nicely. And work continues with ongoing multiple permit requests such as PG&E, private water lines and such. So our special uses staff is staying quite busy. West Side Fire Suppression update. Over the month of July, the West Side Fire Organization has worked multiple days of augmented staffing. So that's that augmented staffing includes extended hours and then 24-hour staffing. During that time period, we were able to suppress all fires that had occurred during those days. Notable fire was the pipeline fire near Post Mountain. We were able to hold that at 8 acres. Our fire suppression staff has been supplemented by outside resources, whether it's other existing Forest Service engines or private contract engines. And we've had a great working relationship with CAL FIRE, our local volunteer fire departments, and we've been assisting the Six Rivers National Forest quite a bit on station coverage and while they have initial attacks and during the initial phases of the Hill incident. So really good relationships across the board in our fire suppression program.
Yep. Okay, so wanted to bring you up to date on a few staffing changes. Our current fire management officer on the Trinity River Management Unit will be retiring at the end of September, Glenn Tingley. So we wanted to thank him for his public service. And also let you know that we have hired his replacement. And I'm thrilled to tell you it's a local. Tim Ritchie will be our fire management officer. So we're really looking forward to that. Tim has just completed a detail working on Sarah's unit in that same capacity. So we're excited to get Tim back and into his new role. Staffing. We are having probably our biggest issues are archaeology. We're really having trouble getting archaeologists hired. That is one of our critical needs. And I think that's true across the forest. Wanted to give you some updates on our fire staffing. We talked about this a little bit in the spring, and I said I would follow up with all of you and give you an idea of how all that kind of panned out. We added a fuels crew. Our fuels crew is currently staffed with 8 out of 10 people. That's a completely new entity. So we're excited about that. Our engines, as I told you, a year ago, June, at one point, we had two, was it two? 4 out of 11 engines staffed on the west side of the forest. That's the South Fork and the Trinity River Management Unit. Happy to tell you that as of today, we have 10 out of 11 engines staffed. Now, some of those are 5-day effective and things, but that's a really been a significant improvement for us. Our hotshot crew, which was at 19 last year, is at 25. And our helicopter staffing has remained pretty much the same, but we do anticipate being able to outreach and increase those numbers as well. Also wanted to let you know we have managed to get an increase, a slight increase in our timber staff, including picking up 3 resource assistants. So we're looking forward to that as well. Sarah, did you want to have any closing things? Because I had this whole long thing, you know me. Okay. All right. I wanted to let you know that we're aware of the article that was in the Trinity Journal regarding communications during fires. It's something we've talked about in the past a little bit, and we've made some changes here on the Shasta Trinity, but sat down with the forest supervisor, and we're going to continue to try and communicate better, more effectively. And in addition, she's asked that we work together to develop a workshop, community workshop in the winter, so people can come and learn about fire terminology, fire suppression tactics, and definitions, the difference between backfiring and burning out and all of those things. So just really want to put some community workshops together so that we can communicate more effectively and get on the same page. Along those lines, Ben and I really want to thank the Resource Conservation District and the Fire Safe Council for developing the local area advisors. It was super helpful during this fire season already. They are quick to answer the phone, give us any local information that may be pertinent, and are very responsive. And we really appreciate that cooperation. Wanted to let you know I'll be taking a detail to the last National Forest as our forest supervisor. It's a 4-month thing. I'll leave now and be back in December. Really do not plan on applying for the job permanently. There's a lot of work to do here in Trinity County, but I want to take some of the things that I've learned from all of you and from the community and from our employees and go see if we can help the last out a little bit. As you know, they've been impacted by fire severely in the last few years with the Dixie Fire and now the ongoing Park Fire. So going to go over there and see if we can help them out for a little bit. But Ben will be here, so you'll have a familiar face, and they will fly a detail behind me for a district ranger. Also, you can always contact Sarah as well for anything of those ongoing issues around the lake and projects, not issues. Let's see. Okay. I want to let you know that while I'm gone, that we have the forest and all of the district leaders are committed to the type of collaboration and partnership approach that we have. That shared stewardship is not it's not one person, it's not 2 people. It's just how the Forest Service is doing business, especially on the Shasta Trinity National Forest. You should expect, and I fully expect, not only will our transparency, our communication, our collaboration continue, but I expect that will continue to grow as we built this solid foundation, and we're going to continue to leverage that to get things done, to boost the economy in Trinity County, and to be effective, responsive partners. That is important to all of us. And I want you to know it's not just a leadership thing, that is a foundation of our workforce. And I can't overstate how important it is and that is the way we do business. It's not just something we talk about or we'd like to do. It is the way that we do things here. And so you should not expect that to change. I have the utmost confidence in Ben Sundahl. I know him to be very responsive, and I think things will continue on a good trajectory. All right. Any questions for us? Questions?
I have a couple questions. So what was the secret to getting from 2 to 10 on the hiring of
The engines?
Yeah.
So as you know, we made the duty stations more flexible and we moved our engines around. So instead of an engine having an employee having to start in Coffee Creek, now we're allowing them to start in Weaverville. And so they'll start in Weaverville and the engine will go to Coffee Creek. Or if in the case of Harrison Gulch, our barracks have been closed. So instead of making them drive out there, we're letting them start in Reading. What we found is the We've gotten a good mix of people who are local, still applying and getting jobs here, but we've also been able to create some more staffing by pulling in some of the Reading people. So that's been the biggest difference, I think. And we've been really flexible and had to adjust, people onto different engines and making it make sense. So we're actually out of the deal. We're getting some additional staffing. The engine is staffed earlier while it travels. If it's out of Reading, it's staffed while it travels to Harrison Gulch. And then at the end of the day when it travels back. So they're working in general 10-hour days instead of 8-hour days.
And Ben, one question out there at the Natural Bridge, is there signage that says you can't climb there? You can't, is it illegal to do what they're doing?
So we went out and met with all of our tribal partners that have an interest in Natural Bridge, especially the Norelmuck. And it was a really good meeting. We realized the Forest Service had tried to balance that natural look, but we're missing some of those interpretive, informative signs, like this is what this area is, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. And so we've come up with a plan. The work that Ben talked about, we're going to do fuels reduction stuff out there and make some adjustments to the parking lot and those kinds of things. But an interpretive display is part of the mix for that. And some of that additional work that like they would like the trail to be improved so it's more available to their elders. That will be included in the Hay Fork project, which comes right after the Big Ranch project.
Thank you. And thanks for the effort getting a hold of me last night.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Yes, I just want to extend gratitude and appreciation for the level of communication and local efforts that your entire staff does. It has been a long time coming, but there is a deep shift, I think, in the balance, in the way that the U.S. Forest Service is engaging and interacting with the folks that actually live here. And I really am truthfully grateful for that. I am also happy to hear that the Fire Safe Council community members that you're able to just reach out to immediately is being effective for you. I know that it's very comforting for the citizenry when information is provided through someone who they actually know. I think that brings a lot of comfort, and I'm grateful and thankful that that effort is kind of coming together and it's being established. So thank you for all that, and thanks for all of the awesome work you guys are going to do in my district. I just think that's wonderful. I feel like I hit the jackpot. It is very necessary, very necessary. It's a lot of healing needs to take place in the communities and on the land. And so I'm just looking forward to all of that healing occurring. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I did notice that some of the new starts, they were all around that Hennessy Ridge area earlier this summer. And I thought, we got to catch it. We got to get our work done. I really want to get that work done before we get the next fire.
I just want to say that under probably maybe prior conditions, I would be worried that you were leaving to go take this detail, but not so. The collaboration, the communication, the responsiveness that I see, I'm completely comfortable as long as you come back. And no, I just mean that to we want you here, not Ben, that I wouldn't trust you. But I think to the larger point that I want to make, I'm so impressed with what your team, the larger team, Rachel included, have done here, that I feel like sharing that with another forest is a responsible thing for us to do. Those are our neighbors in Lassen County that need what we have been privileged to enjoy in our relationships with you. And the fact that you're going over there, I feel like it's sort of an ambassador thing that we do to share with folks. So thank you for that. And we wish you well and appreciate what you're doing. So you have our support and gratitude.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Really appreciate that.
And then this is really on your behalf, but not really to you, is for those that do still have concerns about how things happen and how the Forest Service responds to things. I just hope people will look forward and not backwards, because what I see every single time that there's an interaction, including today, your response to the article in the journal, is just ownership, accountability. Let's move forward. How can we make this better? I just encourage people, if you have a concern and you reach out to these people, I will be amazed if you don't like the answer you get. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
All
Wonderful
right.
day.
Good luck with getting back somewhere on this traffic. Okay. We good to keep moving? Okay. We will move now into public comment. Time is for information from the public on matters not appearing on this agenda or within the consent calendar. All comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters not listed on the agenda. However, the chair may refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up or schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. Do we have any public comment in the room? Yes, please.
Hello, my name's William Burns. I've been camp host at Ruth Recreational Campground for the last 5 years. I'd like to discuss the lack of law enforcement presence down in the 5th District. We've had numerous incidents where law enforcement was not able to show up, or they showed up after 5 hours after the incident was done. I've got an incident that illustrates that pretty well. Happened Sunday before last. We had a camper at it was 7:20 p.m. Law enforcement was called. I was called to campsite 21. We had a individual who had imbibed too much alcohol and had some sort of mental break, had a psychological issue, just started beating the snot out of one of the other campers. And like I said, law enforcement was called at about 7:20. Around 9:20, another camper was assaulted by this same person. They tried to assault a group of passing minors. I had to get in between them, and then I was assaulted. Long story short, we had about 2 assaults that didn't really need to have happened if we'd had law enforcement arrive in a timely manner. They did show up or Deputy Wood showed up around 9:40 and diffused the situation. But I was minorly injured. Another camper was minorly injured, sustained scratches and a kick to the nose. Yeah, we could have had 2 fewer assaults if we had had an officer in the area. I understand there are reasons for the lack of law enforcement in the 5th District. Staffing issues, people on leave, extended leave. So I'm not complaining or whining. I'm just trying to paint a picture for the board. Last weekend was rodeo weekend, and I am not certain about this, but I don't think we had any law enforcement presence out in the Ruth Valley besides Fish and Game. I may be wrong about that, but their boat was in the #1 slip for the entire weekend. So we know nobody was patrolling the lake itself. We had an incident with a speeding trailer who blew up a tire, started a fire. Could have been bad if we had been able to pull that person over for speeding. That incident would not have happened either. We have a big problem with speeders on the lake in our 5-mile-per-hour zones. It creates a dangerous condition for swimmers in those 5-mile-per-hour zones. And I know myself, my district manager, Caitlin Canale, all the staff would be very happy to see more law enforcement in the Ruth Valley. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments in the room? And how about online?
I have no raised hands.
With that, we will move to reports from department heads. Do we have any in the room? No? Online?
I have no raised hands.
All right. Report from our county administrative officer.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple items. The first one, it was brought to my attention that the board might not be have been notified of some of the departments open to the public hours as identified in County Code Section 2.60.09, hours of work. All county offices that are open to the public follow the guidelines in County Code 2.60.09, with the exception of the following. Environmental health, planning, building, and cannabis are open Monday through Thursday, 8 to 2. Clerk, recorder, assessor elections is currently open Monday through Wednesday and Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm sorry, 2 to 4, and Tuesday and Thursday, 11 to 1 and 2 to 4. That is currently due to staffing levels, and we will adjust that as staffing allows. And then the sheriff's admin is open Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4, again, due to staffing issues. All adjusted hours that are, all those adjusted open to the public hours have been coordinated with me, and I have approved those. All hours open to the public that differ from County Code 2.60.09 are due to staffing levels, as I stated, or office personnel that are out on inspection requirements. So all county offices are open Monday through Friday, with a minimum of 8 to 5, with most putting in many more hours than that. And I just want to make sure that the public is aware that just because an office is not open to the public at certain times, that does not mean the office is closed. It means we're still conducting business. We're just not open to the public. The next topic is on the Central Valley Project reconsultation efforts. On July 18th, a draft biological opinion was released for public comment. The biological opinion did not include the Trinity River Division, which was not a surprise. This was in fact expected. NOAA Fisheries, who drafted the opinion, stated that Trinity River Division effects and concerns were included in a 2009 consultation, but the Trinity River Division is going to be addressed separately after the initial Central Valley Project reconsultation effort. This is the same topic that we have been commenting on throughout this reconsultation effort, and we will provide those another set of similar comments to that draft biological opinion no later than next week. This topic would be a good item of discussion at the next board meeting, assuming Carl Stock from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation is able to come and present to this board, which is tentatively scheduled for the 20th of August, which is our next meeting. Next item is we received the results of the February 27th California Department of Water Resources Community Assistance Visit. We had one item of community action required. And the complete report has already been sent to the board members, but this is just a quick update on that, on the status of that community action required. The county is still waiting a response from FEMA as to how exactly we need to address the potential violations in the permit and evaluation certificate. The POC has been working with FEMA to determine next steps, but he is also a California Department of Water Resources contractor and can't make that decision in and of himself without that FEMA concurrence. So we are waiting on that. We have a response date of 1 September, and we will be tracking that and continue the coordination with FEMA. And if additional updates are needed or items needed from the board, I will provide those to the board. Then my last item is the general plan schedule. As previously has been announced, and we've had various meetings on this topic, but the initial public draft general plan elements are on track and scheduled to be released no later than August 16th. So looking forward to getting those out into the public and starting to receive valuable input and comments on those as we continue this process. And that's all I've got right now.
Okay. Any comments or questions? I just wanted to say I appreciate you keeping this on track. I know it's a big thing that there's always been concern, as long as the process is that it can get longer and longer without being tightly managed. And I appreciate you keeping things focused. It was interesting to see the turnout for the zoning component of this. It was not large. As you mentioned, I think when we talked, there can get to be fatigue. There's just so much going on in so many meetings, but I appreciate that the consultants are still making a very strong effort to facilitate meetings for everybody who does turn out. And I did want to highlight too, your comments that when this initial public draft of the general plan comes out, that people should understand that the word draft is for a purpose. It is to get feedback. Oftentimes people say, "Oh, this is what they're going to do. This is what," and well, absent any feedback, it could be what we do. But the whole point is, let's get the feedback, and so it's great to have that coming out soon, and people have a opportunity to weigh in. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. I will make one more iteration on the draft aspect of that, just for everybody's awareness. Really just to kind of to scope the level of effort that this is entailed. As a lot of people know, there are a number of parcels within Trinity County that were previously designated unclassified. The previous direction and the direction from this current board is to make every attempt to provide a classification for every parcel. And we've in fact gone through that process. A number of individuals from the county got together with the Mentor Harnish team, and we were able to provide a general plan designation, a proposed general plan designation to every single parcel in the county.
Wow.
We were working down to the no kidding one eaches on these and looking at maps and gathering information from people who have had boots on the ground experience. And it was quite a process to get through. We completed that a few days ago, and the team is now working the draft, map that's going to be released with this general plan. So again, I've been telling the team and any members of the public at all these public meetings that I've been able to attend that this is probably the 70% or so solution. We are in fact looking for feedback. We want that. There will be items that are not correct in here. Just know that and don't get frustrated with that, but just document it and provide us feedback. There will be a very, very defined written feedback process and mechanism so where we can track every single comment and we can go through the adjudication process. But again, just trying to set expectations and set people's levels of expectation that, expect changes between this draft and when this board makes a final adoption at some point in time in the summer of 25. That is the time period that we will see changes. So please be patient, but also please be engaged and work with us and provide comments. Don't just get frustrated and grumble, but provide comments back to us that are constructive and useful.
Thank you for that. And also that reminds me of really giving recognition to those that are helping make this happen. Clearly the Mentor Harnish team that we contracted with, but also staff carries a big burden with this. And I know that we are generally understaffed from where we know we should be. And then that staffing level is even less right now. And so a special encouragement for Bella Hetke for the Herculean effort that she's putting forward. And I do echo your comments that I hope that if people feel frustration, that is not vented on these people that are carrying this heavy load on our behalf. Give them support and input, but they don't need the grief. So thank you. All right, Supervisor Cox, would you like to start us off with supervisor updates?
Sure. So at the last meeting, I shared with you that regarding PSA2 Area Agency on Aging, the Advisory Council is electing their new board for the coming year, and there was a runoff for their chairmanship. And I share this because it's personal to Trinity County and the wonderful news for us is that our very own Mike Catani was elected to handle that chairmanship for the coming year. And I'm very pleased because we work very closely, the executive board and the advisory council. So I'm super pleased at that outcome. Yes. And that team there is also very pleased and shared in their comments to me. His retirement came at a perfect time. So where we were sorry to lose him out of the department, his efforts on behalf of Trinity County certainly continue, and his expertise and his experience are being used well going forward. So we really appreciate that donation of his time and skills and passion. RCRC, so I was away at that meeting last week, and several things out of that. I had shared that there is a photo contest that takes place annually. I won't spend a lot of time elaborating on that, but it would be really fun if we saw some Trinity County folks participate and take some pictures and submit them. Those that were selected are beautiful, but our scenery is unmatched, and it would be fun to win that one of these years. So if you know a photographer or you endeavor to be one, maybe you look toward that. We do a county auction. We gather and create baskets that get auctioned off. And let me tell you, the money flows in this room where people are purchasing baskets of things that have been donated, stays, bottles of wine, excursions, bling from the county. This is an opportunity to get our county noticed. And it would be it's my responsibility to put this together. So if you would like to donate something to that or know folks who would, I have a list of people I'm going to be reaching out to. I have to have all that submitted by August 30. It will go then onto an app that is first time use this year. And I'm again partnering with the Weaverville Chamber of Commerce. So just touching on that and letting you know that while our county is not the recipient of those funds, they go to nonprofits within the county of the chair. This is a chance for us to put Trinity on the map with people who will come and experience Trinity and take their fun experiences and information back to friends and coworkers. Within RCRC, there exists an affiliate organization that focuses on what's the word I'm trying to look for? They research. Thank you. Not a hard word. And they're looking for what do we want them to research on our behalf, and what kind of experiences would they like for us to suggest that they provide to lead policymakers who would come to Trinity County and our neighboring counties and look at, here are some things we would really like you to see boots on the ground. And what I've noticed is when we get those policymakers here, suddenly these things that they do it feels like they make decisions in a vacuum, sitting in cubicles in urban areas. And if you can get them here to see the reality on the ground, the conversation and the narrative changes drastically. So I am reaching out to folks to say, what are your suggestions? I've received one. And if you've got things to suggest along those lines, please let me know. I'll need to be submitting those here within this week. RCRC is developing their 25 to 27 strategic plan. So that's going on. And I did reach out to the appropriate policy advocate there regarding CARB requirements and constraints that are affecting Trinity County in ways that are not realistic. And so looking for that advocacy to hopefully make create some flexibilities for us. The Building Industry Association has requested that Trinity add the weight of our groanings, I would say, and concern regarding our homeowners insurance situations. They are wanting to request that the governor issue an executive order to insist that the insurance commissioner allow private insurance companies to make the changes that they need to their rates in order to be able to not drop folks from their policies and rely so heavily on the FAIR plan. I had a wonderful conversation on the phone with this gentleman yesterday, and it was a good opportunity for me to express, okay, this is what I think I'm learning and hearing as I listen to the Little Hoover Commission and the research that they're doing. Turns out, yes, I am hearing correctly, and some of it just seems unbelievable. So the letter that was provided to us along with a resolution, the sample was from Shasta County. I think that we need to make some adjustments to that fit us a little, tailor a bit better and are a little more precise. So I'll be working with Supervisor Lutweiler to craft that, and I'll bring it to the board on the 20th for your consideration.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. The last thing I would like to point out, this is not something that the county governs, but it is an absolute county concern. And that is that the equipment that sits on top of Oregon Mountain that broadcasts down into Junction City and Weaverville and other areas, in these two, there are 3 radio stations and 2 television stations that are broadcast down. And the one transmitter that provides information into Weaverville for North State Public Radio is broken and needs to be replaced. And that equipment costs between $5,000 and $6,000. And while the Weaverville Transmitter Corporation has sufficient, not tons of, funds in their account to just go buy that piece of equipment, they are a little resistant to just write that check because there aren't revenues that come into this, and they do have monthly electric bills to consider. But then, you weigh in the balance. Can we live without it? What if we were, I don't even want to say this out loud, but you look at, what's going on with the park fire. What if people needed to get information that you can't get via telephone or cellular service? You don't want to be caught without a way of communicating. So I have been on the phone with the executive director at North State Public Radio, who has every heart to want to partner. I'm not seeing dollars turned our direction. And so I guess the plea looks like this. If you are a person or know folks who make monthly donations, and I do believe there's probably a healthy fistful of people who do, might consider redirecting those funds directly over to the Weaverville Transmitter Corporation. I'm also working with the Humboldt Area Foundation, Humboldt Area Wild Rivers Community Foundation, to see if maybe they would initially write that check for us, and then donations could be directed back that direction to, refund it, so to speak, so that that's kind of a rolling thing, not looking to take their, funds. But I really think we need to get this replaced. So I toss that out for information, for consideration. These are nonprofits. You can still get the same write-off. But to me, it doesn't make sense to continue to write those checks to North State Public Radio when you're not getting their signal right now. And I want Weaverville to know that. So more on that to come, but just a heads up, that's what's going on right now. End of report.
Thank you. Supervisor Gogan.
I had a meeting that we spoke about just a little bit earlier. It's called CTG GAP. And it has to do with child oral health care. I think we brought up kind of the stumbling block that we're at right now. It's a great group. Kristen was here. Gave a good presentation. It's just, we're just at a spot right now that I'm not sure how hard it may be to get over, but we're certainly going to work at it. Also, I was at a zoning meeting in Hayfork a week or 2 ago, and I was kind of shocked that the attendance was down a little bit. And as CAO Tudhill mentioned earlier, what we're looking at now is a draft. It's a proposal of what we might see or ratify, a year from now, maybe next summer. So this is the time to have input, especially in the outlying areas, Hayfork, and outside of that. I think Mentor Harness is doing a good job, but this is not, we do not live in a typical county. We have various different zonings here. We're a huge county. So I think it's probably a challenge for them to understand the zoning and all the different zonings we have here and to put a name to them. So at this point, the most public input that we can get from the most knowledgeable people in certain districts, especially mine, as big as it is. It's needed. And, as Trent said, we are at, the 70% mark. So there is, a lot of wiggle room for the parties that think that we may not be getting it right to speak up now, to put their 2 cents worth in. And hopefully that, we get it right by the middle of 2025. So, don't give up on it. We know that there's going to be changes. We expect changes. We are only in the draft level. So my hope is that, the people that are there and concerned and have the input and the knowledge necessary continue to show up and impart us with, their kind of personal knowledge that we saw a little bit of last zoning meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
First, again, I just want to thank Supervisor Cox for going forward with that request. I believe we all received it, and I think that will be a very good idea. I do agree that we need to kind of make it our own, but I'm looking forward to that process. I just want to say thank you to the fire crews and the helicopter pilots and the airplane pilots and everybody who is engaged in the Hill Fire over there in eastern Humboldt County. It did impact a little bit of western Trinity County with a few evacuation warnings. I am always very grateful for the time I know it takes for the fire engine crews to come and do the assessment of your property and put the little stickers on your gate so they know who's there and who's not. And then I'm always happy when I see Trinity County deputies come out and just do a surveillance of the communities and make sure that everybody is aware of the threat and danger. I am very grateful, as I mentioned earlier, for the folks who take the time to be the local communicators for the fire safe councils. It's super valuable to hear that local voice, and also for our local volunteer fire departments, both Salyer and Hawkins Bar, who played a role in just communicating information to their community members. I know that people really value that. I'm glad that the Hill Fire is pretty much out. It's just doing its final thing. I just want to also add my prayers and concerns and hopes for the folks who are dealing with the park fire. I know that their board of supervisors are probably wringing their hands and trying to figure out how they're ever going to recover from a fire that grew as fast as it did and ripped through the communities the way that it did. It's just a scary, scary time when a fire moves that big and that fast. So I'm just prayerfully considering what they're having to deal with. I spent quite a bit of time over the last 2 weeks just visiting with local folks and hearing people's concerns about problems they're having within their communities and things they would like to see changed, or hope that they would be able to have access to some more resources. It appears, based off of public commentary, that Frontier has essentially abandoned their landline services. I just don't even know where to go with that anymore. It's incredibly frustrating, especially to the senior citizen population and folks who just don't have the capacity to have Wi-Fi in their house, or even the ability to figure out how to use Wi-Fi calling. We literally have folks stranded with no communication. It's frustrating beyond my capacity to handle it, and we just hit nothing but brick walls when we try to address that situation. I've also had the opportunity to have some good correspondence with some of our county departments in bringing up some of the issues that our community members are having, and I'm always very grateful for their response and just providing me with a way that citizens can become more active in their own concerns. I'm paying close attention to all things NACO. We're still marching forward and hoping and watching the Farm Bill and the Secure Rural Schools Act. There's a public a payment in lieu of taxes fly in to kind of bring a lot of force into DC September 11th and 13th. I'm not 100% certain that my travel budget can handle me going to that, so I have to check into that. But I just am super grateful that NACO does the work that it does, and that as a member of the caucuses, we really do get to engage in what moves forward and what is petitioned to Congress. So I thank you for allowing me to continue on that assignment, and it's very important work that happens on a much grander scale. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Frazier.
Chair, can I make a quick comment?
Oh, yes, please.
We do not have budget for that additional meeting, but we can certainly coordinate with NACO representatives and also local representative from the school district who is highly likelihood of going and can carry the message on our behalf.
Thank you.
Okay, well, July 18th, I had a North Coast Unified Air Quality Management District Board meeting in Eureka. Where after I've been on the board for 3.5 years now, I believe, we finally made some appointments to the, I'm drawing a blank, the appeals board for North Coast Unified Air Quality Management District. We appointed, there are certain specifications for people to be on the appeals board. You have medical, engineering, and law groups that have to be represented. We appointed a lawyer. We had 2 engineers that had applied. So one was appointed as an engineer, and one was appointed as a at-large member. So now we actually will have a functional appeals board at North Coast Unified Air Quality Management District, and still looking for somebody from the medical field. So I think that's about all that there was to report from that meeting. Then on the 24th, we had a Colusa Glen Trinity Community Action Partnership meeting that was actually here in Weaverville this time. We've been working on kind of planning stuff there, also working through the new rewording of the mission statement and vision and stuff. So we're working through that, and the next, we should have something to vote on at our next meeting for that and move forward with our updated mission and vision. And the next meeting for that board will be in Colusa, I believe, next month. So,
Which group was that? Sorry.
Colusa Glen Trinity Community Action Partnership.
Thank you.
And I think that's all I have to report. Everything else was low level in county.
Okay. On my side, NORTEC, the workforce management organization that I'm assigned to by the board, I yesterday facilitated a final session of an ad hoc committee that was set up to work on strategic planning for that organization. And our final step was actually to conduct a survey focused on board effectiveness. So that was very interesting to come up with that, and then go over the results of that and talk about what we do next. Related to that, I am working with CAO Tuthill and CSAC COO Paul Denzek to create a board chair effectiveness survey. So they will be sending that out soon to the supervisors and staff that CAO Tuthill chooses, basically to provide input back to me in this case about, well, based on the criteria that we've established, how is this board chair role being fulfilled this year, with the hope that that establishes kind of a clarity of expectations. What do we expect of each other in this role, as well as opportunities that I could have to improve for the balance of my term. So that's something you should probably expect here in the near future. I encourage everyone, including staff, to be as open and honest as possible so that the process can be as effective as possible. And with SCED, which is the Economic Development Organization for our region, I am preparing for another round of strategic planning with that group. The great thing about this is that, now with Nortec and coming up here with SCED, we are going to have these organizations that we rely on a lot for economic and workforce development, much more strategically focused and aligned than they've been in the past because they just haven't gone through these processes. So it's great to see that coming together. And I don't know if we'll wrap up at this next board meeting, but we will make some good progress. And then picking up on what CAO Tuthill said and Supervisor Carpenter Harris, I am working with CAO Tuthill and Susie Hawkins to come up with a new policy to guide board travel decisions and funding allocations. Because, we have these situations where if you are the person assigned to NACO, traveling to Washington, DC for 5 days is a lot more expensive than driving down to Sacramento for a couple of days. And so we can't, have the same for everybody just because it has to be more attuned to what those responsibilities are. And then the other thing we're looking at is not everyone needs to go to the meetings. So we've had situations where a number of us were at, say, a CSAC meeting when we may have to, because of budget limitations, say, well, only the primary maybe needs to be there, or maybe the primary and the alternate if there's too many things to cover in one agenda, but we don't need 3 or 4 or 5. And so I'll be working on a policy. It'll come out to everyone. If there is board input that we need to discuss it further, we'll put it on the agenda. If not, it'll just take effect.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Okay. With that, I guess I will ask, do we have an ad hoc committee update on tribal relations?
I do want to share that I communicated just recently with both tribes, reminding them of their presentation, which I need to get the date for that. We need to look for, I'll work with you offline to get the date for
And
that.
Ashley
And
has that schedule as well. She can show you.
Okay, to get the date to make sure that when they come in to do their presentations, we have that date set up. And then the amount of time that they'll be allowed to spend. So I've been communicating with them on that, letting them know kind of what we're looking for in that update. And I am happy to say that just had some meetings this week. The Sanangwe tribe is working towards the development of several land stewardship agreements with the Forest Service in Western Trinity County. So it's exciting news, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes together. But that is all I have to report for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I would suggest we take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back to pick up on consent calendar.
Generous this morning, 10 minutes.
Like lunch.
Yeah, I know. Holy smokes.
an item on the consent calendar, they may provide them now. A member of the board or staff may request an item be pulled and considered separately. And CAO Tuthill, I believe you have one that you definitely are pulling, not even for discussion, just removing from the calendar.
Correct. If there's no other comments, I will make mine. So for items 4 and 31, there are some minor administrative items associated with each item that we need to correct. Specifically for item 4, there's a name spelling that we need to correct. And for item 31, we will replace Nevada with Trinity in the actual letters. But those are minor administrative and no other changes will be made on those, assuming those consent items are approved by the board. I will request a poll item D15. I'll talk about it when we pull it, but it'll be completely pulled.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to clarify those pieces before we open it up for public comment. So at that point, any public comment in the room? Any online?
Veronica.
Good morning, Veronica Kelly Albies, Douglas City. I would like to request that you pull D7 just so we can have a better idea of the data and analytics of this particular movement of money, the $453,000. It would be nice to know how many businesses were assisted with this amount of money, what kind of fees were waived, cost recovery, license fee, or consultant fee, just to give us a better idea of how this equity money is being used and if it is really helping a wide margin of our cannabis business owners. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no other raised hands.
Okay. Based on that input, supervisors, is there anything you'd like to see pulled from the agenda for discussion or otherwise?
I think we should honor the public and pull D7 to answer the questions that were asked. So I will do that.
And for clarity, if EAO is asking us to pull D15, do we need to actually pull that and have a discussion, or can we just remove it from the agenda altogether and just pull that item? I'm thinking that it's your item, we can take it off without having to discuss it.
That's what the request is, yeah.
Oh, I didn't understand that. You're asking to remove, not pull for discussion.
Correct.
Follow. Thank you.
Okay, so unless there's other input, then item D7 will be pulled for discussion. And hopefully we can get word to Drew to be available. And then item D15 is just being removed from the consent calendar and will be brought back at a later time when it's ready.
Drew's online.
Okay, so given that, then let us have I'll entertain a motion on the remaining.
I'll make a motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion
I will second.
and a second.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Leutwiler.
Aye. Okay. Now we'll move to item D7, Community Development Building. Approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 23-24 for Cannabis Equity Grant, Department 7239, increasing revenues and interfund expenses by $453,183.
So Chair, before Drew comes on, I know he's online and he'll be able to answer some of these questions. But I just want to make everybody aware from the public that, you know, this information, maybe not what specifically Veronica was asking about, but the whole grant manual, who's eligible for these grants, what the criteria is for awarding these. It's all in a manual. It's all on the Cannabis website. It's all been in front of this board before. So this is nothing new. This money that you're seeing here is the first 25% of the entire grant. This money has in fact been received prior to the end of the fiscal year. You know, we literally got a check for this amount of money. We deposited it. And this is the transfer of that money from an administrative perspective. This grant allows us to what is known as deficit spending up to the full grant amount. So you spend in advance of getting the actual grant money. So this money is in effect the first 25% of this grant. All these funds have been expended. And you know, this is the reimbursement, if you will, from the state for these grant allocations. We're currently at about $605,000 or so totally spent on this grant. The next 25% will be requested at the end of the quarter or at the end of the time period where we've expended the second 25%. So we will have expended a full 50% of the grant, and we will get that second 25% allocation. So just kind of an explanation, if anybody's interested, you know, the how to, the who's eligible, all that kind of stuff is out there. You know, and Varnick's questions are good, and Drew can kind of work through some of that information. I don't know how much of it he's going to have at his fingertips, but all of the grant allocations have been going specifically towards the members who have been already identified in the manual as far as how this grant money is to be allocated. This is not anything we're just making up on the fly as we get this going. This is a manual that's been established, approved, worked with the state, and then the process is very well established. So with that, Drew, if you could maybe go through any numbers you have as far as who has been granted this money and any details that you may have available at this time, that'd be beneficial.
Certainly. Good morning, Supervisors. Drew Plabani, Cannabis Division Director. I think that Trent may have answered most of the outstanding questions that you all had, but just to give some more information, essentially to date, we have applied $605,500 in fee waivers, and that is 129 fee waivers to program participants. And then to just further clarify, so we received essentially $1.8 million in total funds from GoBiz. And the way that the grant has been set up is that they're basically giving us disbursements in 25% of the total grant value. And so we received word that the grant was approved in the spring, and then following that, we received the first disbursement of 25%, $453,000 and change. A few weeks back, so kind of roughly paralleling the close of the fiscal year, we had expended the first 25% disbursement. We uploaded the associated financial expenditure documentation to GoBiz, along with the request for the second 25% disbursement. Last week sometime, we received confirmation from GoBiz staff that the expenditure documentation had been reviewed and approved, along with an approval for the second disbursement to be released, which we expect to see that check towards the end of this month. It's roughly 2 to 4 weeks for I believe it's their general services department to issue checks, essentially. I don't know if there are any more specific questions that I might be able to answer for you all.
Anybody? Drew, I think this kind of gets at some of the questions I'd sent that I just was happy to wait for afterwards, because I knew a lot of these at a high level. So one, it's important to know, I was asking where can I go look to see about qualifications? And so you're saying right on the website. That's easy for me to then find. And then I think the only other question I haven't heard answered, if you have it on hand, Drew, is there a time limit? So do these funds have to be expended within a certain amount of time?
Yes, the grant term is 18 months. And so later this fall, while this grant term is still ongoing, we intend to apply for another round of equity grant funds, which I believe is either 300,000 or 500,000 that we may be able to qualify for, without any funds matching from the county, which is a new requirement for fiscal year 24-25 solicitation for this grant.
Okay. And just while we have you, then is there, it sounds like what we've expended so far is all associated with fee waivers. Is that correct statement?
Yep.
And are there other ways in which those funds could and are likely to be used that
Yes.
are fit within the program and such?
Yep. So we've been approved for the majority of the funds were allocated towards fee waivers. There are also funds that were allocated for direct technical assistance to equity program participants. There was also approval for an equity incubator program to do a series of, educational events for the equity program, as well as approval for a equity satellite office in Hayfork, and that lease has still not yet been finalized, but we do expect that to happen in the not too distant future.
Thank you for those. Any other questions for Director Plavani before we move on?
And
okay. Oh,
sorry,
yes, go ahead.
I forgot to add that there's also direct and indirect administrative costs that have also been captured in that grant budget.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this point, I'll entertain a motion regarding item D7.
I'll move to approve.
A motion to approve
I will second.
and a second. Any discussion? I'll just say to Drew, if he's still on, thank you for doing all the work to get this funding available and then to administer it. I know that's always a blessing and a curse when you get grant money, then you have to administer it and do all the reporting and everything else. But very grateful for that to keep the program moving without any further impact to the general fund. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chairman Lutwiler.
Aye. All right, thank you. Next item. Under county matters, these items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board, staff, or public may request that an item be heard out of order. The first item is Auditor Controller, approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 23-24 for public.
You missed E. Public hearing.
Oh, I jumped right past it because I thought it was part of this and I was thinking, why is that first? I thought it was first. Thank you for catching that. Yeah, I missed that wasn't actually in county matters. I scrolled too fast. All right, we will go back to E1 instead of F1. Solid Waste, conduct a public hearing to receive any objections or protests to the 24-25 delinquent list for solid waste parcel fees and adopt a resolution which confirms this list. No impact to the general fund. Any changes made to the report will impact the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund.
Good morning, Diane Rader, Deputy Director of Solid Waste. Final public hearing for the parcel fee billing for the 24-25 fiscal year. To adopt a resolution after hearing comments on what the outstanding list is, and it will roll to property taxes when adopted. Bills were mailed out 4/13 of this year and were due 6/30. And we've taken payments all the way through 7/31 that were posted to the list that's attached to the agenda item. Any payments that we received from 8/1 through yesterday are on a supplemental list that I have brought with me that Ashley handed out. And on my way out the door, I collected one more payment. So I needed to add bill number 5108 to the supplemental list for a total of 9,755 in supplemental payments that I'd like to be able to accept and apply to the list before it rolls.
Any questions for Diane? No? All right, we will move to public comment.
I do have a question.
Oh, you do. Go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm always curious, is there any benefit to just having this fee just included directly in property taxes? Or what is the, if we end up there kind of anyway, sometimes with some folks, why don't we just add it to the public, to our property
To make
taxes?
it a tax, we would have to go through an election on it. and
Oh,
have it
understood.
voted on.
Okay, all right, I get
This
that now.
at the
Thank you.
moment is a benefit assessment, and then it just can be collected. If it goes delinquent, then we can add it to the property.
Okay,
taxes.
all right, thank you for explaining that.
I have one question. Is this generally a normal amount? Is this up 10, 20%, down 10,
It's
20%?
a little bit high, but it generally ranges between 20 and 25%, and this is in line with that. A little bit higher this year.
Thank you. Okay, open for public comment.
Hi, just a quick one, Dave Alves, Douglas City. Is there a way we can update our payment options for the county to include debit cards or automatic payments? I think that would limit your, I know I'm guilty of being delinquent because it's one of those archaic letters that comes in the mail that we don't pay attention to in a PO box. I go to my PO box maybe every 4 weeks because everything else is automatic. So if we could just update it so it's automatic, or you can pay through a credit card or a debit card, I think a lot of these would go away. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm another delinquent property taxpayer, I guess. Had some hardships along with a lot of other people. I'd like to ask for an extension or fee waiver. I'm kind of new at this ballgame.
Okay, did you have a specific request? I hear extension. Was there something like more specific about what you were requesting?
Well, how much would I need to come up with at one time to take care of this matter or whatever?
Please,
When it rolls to the property taxes, then that makes it where you.
Diane, I'm sorry, could you just with the mic since people are,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
So once it rolls to the property taxes, then it can be paid in 2 payments along with the rest of your property tax. And if you had 1 unit, do you know what your bill number is or anything I could look up to see what the amount was? Theoretically, it's $100 with a $35 late fee at this point.
Like a parcel number?
Yes, that would
68
work.
Virginia.
I'm sorry, now what's the number?
68 Virginia Street.
Do you don't have like what your bill number was or anything?
Yeah.
I don't have a full list to be able to look up and see what it is. I'm guessing it's $100. Is it just for a single residence?
Yeah, it's like 3 years.
Okay, yeah, it would only be for the current year and it would be $100 and a $35 late fee attached to it that would roll to the property taxes.
Chair, may I suggest that we take this offline and the individual can get with the treasurer tax collector and Diane, and we can work through options that the individual has from a legal perspective. Once it rolls to taxes, there's very specific guidelines and collection points and options that an individual have, but we can explain all that to the individual offline.
So in that case, the board would be approving with, basically approving the director to work with this individual on this particular parcel.
Well, I would just ask the board to, we would work with the individual and follow all established normal procedures that are currently in place.
Okay. All right. So just for clarity, then, as the person responsible for that, she can either directly or with the auditor collector's office help you with the specifics of how you could get trued up on this. All right. Thank you for coming in. Okay. Any other public comment? Any online?
I have no raised hands.
Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion.
I will move that we adopt the resolution as presented, and as the AO has requested, that with this particular individual, we follow all the established procedures already in place.
And can it accept the supplemental payment list also?
And inclusion of acceptance of the supplemental payment list. Thank you.
I will second.
I'm sorry, any further discussion? Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chairman Leadweiler.
Aye. Okay. In time to F1 under county matters. This was the auditor controller approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 23-24 for Public Defender Department 2170, increasing services and supplies by $15,230, and approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 23-24 for General Fund Contingency Department 9901, decreasing provisions for contingency by $15,230. Increase in general fund appropriations in the amount of $15,230. Current general fund contingency balance is $158,039.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, County Council. My name is Buck Simmons. I am from the Auditor's Controller's Office, and I'm here to hopefully answer any questions you may or may not have.
Does anybody have any questions regarding this matter? Okay, with that, we'll go to public comment. Any public comment in the room? And any online?
I have no raised hands.
Okay. We'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve. I will second.
And any discussion? No.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Chairman Leadweiler.
Aye. Thank you, sir. F2, Clerk of the Board, waive the county fee waiver policy, find that the Golden Age Center roof replacement project provides a public benefit, and approve their application for waiver of county fees, waiving building department fees in the amount of $1,200 and Trinity County solid waste fees in the amount of $1,980, total $3,180. Potential loss in revenue in the amount of $3,180, $1,980 from solid waste, and $1,200 from building.
Thank you, Chair. I will present this item. So as you see in the staff report, my recommendation is to waive half of the said requested fee waiver. That is in line with what we have been doing for about the last 18 months or 16 months since I've been on board. And for example, in 23-24, we had 15 fee waiver applications. 5 of those were from the building and planning area. 4 of those were split 50-50. 1 down in Burnt Ranch, the Burnt Ranch Estates Mutual Water company. That was heard by this board. The board went ahead and waived the full $2,850 of that one. Then we had 3 in environmental health. Those were about a 600 average waived fee. And then there was 3 in general services. Those were a little bit different because those are for rental of grounds. That's typically Loudon Park. Those are for events like 4th of July and other countywide events. Those full fees were waived. And then we had 4 in solid waste. One of those was a request for the fairgrounds, and that fee waiver was completely rejected. Nothing was waived there. And then 3 of those were split, again, 50-50, like we've been doing for these other ones. That is why I recommended a 50-50 split on this one. I've been back and forth with Dave Alves. I know he's here today, and I'm sure he will make some comments and requests to the board. But this is in line with what we've been doing. This one is pretty close to, for the inspectors, there's not a whole lot of drive time, which is good. So the board can take that into consideration. And also they are doing what we would consider self-hauling from the material of the roof to the solid waste facility. They're not asking for a rental of a bin or anything like that, or for us to haul it. They're self-hauling. So the waiver would be the actual disposal fees at the dump. But again, I'm recommending half because that's basically what we've been doing before, in line with our budget realities. So I will turn it over for any questions and go from there.
Any questions for CEO Tetel? Yes.
One question is, what portion of our county fee waiver policy would we be waiving?
Well, we're not really waiving the policy itself. We're just waiving the fee.
Okay, and that was the issue I had. Was I thought that this looked like it was consistent with our policy, so I wanted to determine if and why are we actually waiving our policy.
Yeah, we're just waiving it's a fee waiver request. So yeah, we're not trying to change policy at all.
Okay.
Okay, no other questions. We'll take public comment.
Still good morning. Albies, president of the board, Golden Age Center. Right now, our organization is on a absolute shoestring budget. Right, we've just finished our last budget projections, probably 3 years to keep going the way we are now. We're running not slightly, about a 25,000 deficit per year. We are supporting 75 seniors with food. The bus systems save the government or the county government well over, well, it's really probably about 600,000 a year just in para vehicle capabilities. The county does not have any. It would require the county hire 3 paramedics per vehicle. Easy $100,000. I belong to the transportation board. These are all their own figures of how much you guys would have to spend even with a potential $300,000 grant, still $300,000. We're able to do it for free to the county. As everything else, we don't take any funds from the county, the state, or the federal government right now. We're all private, so everybody that is in admin is a volunteer. I've worked there for the last 4 years. I've contributed over 100,000 myself to keep this thing going. It's very important to the community. We provide services such as health and welfare inspections for our elderly when we deliver the food, saving countless lives. We've saved, I don't know how many lives, I couldn't tell you. Discovering that they're in poor health and getting them to the emergency room. Our para vehicle takes people to Reading. The ones that can't afford an ambulance service without health insurance. We've done that multiple occasions. We support just about all of the community around the Junction City, Douglas City, Poker Bar, Lewiston, all areas. We've even gone to Hayfork for emergency purposes. It's very expensive, of course, to haul somebody all the way to Reading and back. In addition, we are the smoke center for Trinity County. We provide those services for free. That's heat, smoke, all that good stuff. And of course, we support the elderly. We wouldn't be asking for any funds if we couldn't help it. Right now, we have a grant for materials, and from the Trinity Trust, very grateful, and through Trinity Lumber and Building Supply, who's providing that cost, even putting tiles on the roof for us, et cetera, to help. We're doing labor to tear down. We're providing all that we're milking everything we can get to keep the cost down. And right now we're running about a $25,000 deficit. The board gave us a $57,000 grant as part of one of those projects when we had a grant administrator, and that fell through at the state level. So now we're having to pay for stuff. All like I said, everybody's a volunteer. That's 150,000 just minimum for admin people to actually work this Golden Age Center if in fact we had to. So we're pulling everything we can, and if anything we could get based on, and I really appreciate any effort at all to help us. If we could just get maybe the building fees waived. It's not too much skin off the county's back. It's just a roof. So I'm not sure why the building permits are so high for that, but I get it. And anything you can do to help, we're really that strapped. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Veronica.
Veronica Kelly Alves, Douglas City. I just want to, of course, support David on everything that he just said and thank CAO Tut Hill for his input. As someone who has volunteered there as well, I know what a shoestring budget they, along with many organizations within the county, work on. I think this is one of the best examples of a fee waiver request that's a community benefit as a whole. This Golden Age Center board and volunteers have worked over the last 4 or 5 years to create not just services for the seniors, that is their focus, it's their primary, it's their goal, it's their love, but they have found ways to help sustain other services through the bus service, which is open to everyone. And as they said, as David said, they save the county a great deal of money with the services that they provide. And I think that's an amazing partnership. So the fact that they've done everything to request the lowest amount possible, they're going to take everything to the dump. They're not asking for the easy route that I have seen before in waiver requests. And I think this is just the best example of giving the full amount requested because it is such a community service-based facility, organization, and the partnership they have with the county saves the county a great deal of money. If they can't do that, that will cost the county more money. So it's kind of a no-brainer to assist and support that request. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no other raised hands.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? CEO Tuttle, perhaps you can help me with a couple of times mentioned that the services provided by this organization save the county money from having to do the same thing. Can you add to that? I'm not sure, or anybody that is familiar with the organization and how they work.
Unfortunately, I cannot add to that, and I'm not aware of what the county would have to provide statutorily if those services weren't provided by the Golden Age Center. It would be something the county may want to do and may feel we need to do, but I'm unaware of statutorily what we would have to do for those individuals that were referenced.
Okay. Thank you.
And Jill, you may know they are not part of PSA 2 anymore. Not yet. They haven't established
Correct. No.
good standing again since they lost it.
Well, they haven't applied for it. And so it's not that they wouldn't be in good standing. I think that the things that were in ill repair have been more than met and cleaned up. And the way that they operate now is exemplary. But PSA 2 funding is there's high maintenance with that. The reporting requirements are large and cumbersome, and they've chosen not to do that. They've chosen to dig in and find the funding on their own.
How much funding are they losing by choosing not to? I know that Golden Age Center up until, I think 4 or 5 years ago was PSA 2. I think when we both started, it was PSA 2.
Yeah, there's no way to answer that question because it's a process of applying, and a review board of, a portion of the committee looks at the different applications, and there are criteria by which decisions are made when, that's arrived at. So there isn't a way to answer that. It's also dependent on state funds from year to year availability, those funds that get cut, those that move forward. So.
I can help answer that in 15 seconds.
Sure.
Please.
Thank you. PSA 2 basic funding for the Golden Age Center is around $57,000, but they require us to hire a general manager, a cook, an assistant cook, the things that we can't. So it would actually cost the Golden Age Center like almost $200,000 to get $50,000, and that's the reason we don't do it.
Jill, how did the other people that participate, like the Roderick Center in PSA 2, if that is the case, I imagine the Roderick Center has to hire the same amount of people, same costs. What you may know, what does the Roderick Center get annually?
I don't have those numbers in front of me. That was recently adopted, and those numbers are available, but I don't have them.
They may already have those positions.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell.
It seems
So I guess we need to, if we're gonna have discussion, if we don't have further questions, then we just need to have a motion for then discussion.
I have a question. I think I don't know if it'll be answered. It's probably more rhetorical, but why does it cost $1,200 to get a permit to put a new roof on a building? What is the building department actually providing in permitting services that cost $1,200 for a re-roof? I wouldn't even have applied for a permit because I wouldn't think it would be necessary to do maintenance on your own building.
A re-roof is a standard building permit. It's required by the state. And what they're going to do is do a plan check like they would with anything else to make sure it meets standards. Then they're going to have to go out there and inspect the actual roof in a couple different stages of their roof replacement, just like they would a new roof. So there'll be a couple times they go out at least. There'll be some plan check time that they've done. That's in accordance with the fee study that was adopted by building about 18 months or so ago. I'd have to go back and get the exact date. That's about the time period.
And is that, so yeah, okay.
I agree. I mean, you look at all these costs and they look high. You wait for about 6 weeks when I bring the budget forward and you think we're on a shoestring, everybody's mentioned we're on a straight shoestring budget and costs are going up. Guess what? The costs are going up for the county too.
Yeah.
CPI's gone up 37.8% in the last 3.5 years. Our revenues have stayed exactly the same. Costs are going up. It costs us more to drive there. It costs us more for maintenance. It costs for salaries. It costs us. I mean, it just costs more. And this is all incorporated in the fee study that was done. And there's quite a lot of analysis, as this board knows, that went into that. And this is just part of that. So I agree that you might look at that and go, oh, it's $1,200 for just a re-roof. That's a lot, but that's just the world we're in right now. And that there is, I mean, I have specifically talked to Cody on this after Dave submitted the request. I specifically talked to Cody, said, hey, how can we minimize this? And we can to a degree, and that's why I've recommended, a 50% reduction in it. Because it is close. It's not like we're having to drive to Hayfork, we're having to drive down to Ruth, or we're having to drive, down to Mount River to do this, where we'd incur more staff time and more operational time as far as vehicle maintenance and fuel cost. So this one, because of its location, it is on I would say the lower expense side of those inspections that will be required from our building department. And that's why I've recommended the the 50% waiver on this one.
And so to be clear about that, just from the public's perspective, and you can correct me if my understanding is wrong, that fee study that was done factors in like an average of what it would cost if somebody in Xenia was applying for the exact same permit as somebody right across the street. And so when I sit here, probably in the hardest seat of everybody today, because you're in my district, and I absolutely love the service that you provide, and I have to ask myself the question, what is the benefit to whole of county? Why would somebody that lives in Xenia hope that their supervisor would be as favorable or passionate towards such a project as somebody that is here, which is where we can come up with the feeling of sort of a Weaver-centric view of how the county spends money. And that is a narrative that has to be discussed in a very open and honest way.
We discussion or question?
Whoops.
Make a motion and then we'll go into it.
I have a quick question.
I didn't want to interrupt if there is a question, but I just want to make sure.
You're right. I was getting off track because what I was going to do was lead to just the clarification that when the CAO, if I understand you correctly, and you're saying you're recommending only the 50% reduction, and you're talking about having had the conversation where it would like save the money, I don't think that you're saying that the building permit is going to like cost less than $1,200, but that when we reduce that by 50% and we as a board look at the expense revenue for this particular project, it won't end up being as big of a ding into the expense side as the $600 that we would see on paper.
That is a correct analysis and thought process, yes.
One question.
Yes, ma'am. You have a
I
question?
believe I already know that answer, but I just want to make sure. The organization is a 501c3, is that correct? So people in the community, if 80 people donated $20, we would be able to get to a revenue that would help with, if we only can do half, then if 80 people donated $20, we would come to the makeup and the difference roughly. So that's my call to the community. 80 people need to donate $20 and then you can't do that. No. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I just wanted to make sure it was a 501c3. Then
Okay.
people do get a deduction when they do those donations.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion from the board.
I would make a motion for the board to waive 50% of the fee as suggested in F2.
I'll second that.
All right, is there further discussion or another motion?
Yeah, I just want to continue with what
Okay.
my question was diverted me to. I just want there to be a real understanding of the difference between heart and desire and reality, because we're about to have some really uncomfortable conversations in the weeks to come about money and what we have and where it can go and where it absolutely must go. We heard in public comment today that we don't have responsive sheriff's officer time available to the further reaches of our county. And how do I say in my seat, which again is painful, that I don't weigh this need being asked as though I would make a motion that we just waive the whole thing as an alternate motion. You have to fly higher and look, and I know that it's probably difficult for people today because we don't have a suggested budget before us for consideration on this day, but I have a sense of what's coming, and it's not going to be comfortable. And so stay tuned because those are going to be our realities. And this, my support of 50% in no way indicates what I wish was the reality. I just know what is and what we can and cannot do.
Any other public or any other comments or competing motion?
I would make a competing motion
Okay.
that we waive the entire fee. And if we can get a second, we'll go into some discussion.
Okay, I'll second. I want to hear that.
Okay, well, I think that, while I realize that we're going into budget season where we have no money, there are certain things in our county that we need to actually support. When I see fee waivers come forward for volunteer fire departments that are providing a service that our county can't, when I see fee waivers coming forward for the Golden Age Senior Center that's providing a service that we can't, $1,600 is a very small investment into something that's bigger and probably more, how would I put it politically correctly, better run than government anyway, because they're not bound by all the crazy stuff that we are. So they can actually get more for that money than we'll ever get. I realize that when we go into budget season, the only place that we're going to find money is bodies. We've been saying that for years. But at the same time, $1,600 doesn't buy anything in our budget, but it buys something in their budget that we can't provide. If we try to replace the Golden Age Senior Center, it's going to cost us $1.6 million to do what they're doing from a county level. The same thing with our volunteer fire departments. If we can say, yeah, we're going to waive $3,000 worth of fees to, say, Lewiston Fire Department, what we save by giving them $3,000 amounts to hundreds of thousands on our end. So while we are looking at our budget sucks, I get it. We also have to look at a broader picture of what actually is being provided by this funding. And is $1,600 that they're going to have to really struggle for worth the potential of them cutting their benefits and we have to pick up the slack? We can't pick up that slack. There is no way that we can pick up the slack that the Golden Age Senior Center would leave if they were not there. So that's my take on it.
Other comment, discussion?
Just, I hear you 100%, and my heart's like, yes, that was great. But I wonder though, if in 2 weeks we have another organization that's doing something equally as grand in a different part of the county, and it's another $1,600 here and another $1,000 there. By the time we get to the end of the day, what do we do with that, say, 20 grand, or whatever it may be? I completely, my heart wants to be with you, Supervisor Frazier, really, really bad. But I just, the cumulative impacts of marginal, of marginal gain or marginal loss eventually begins to roll into something larger. And so that's what I'm struggling with. I hear you 100%, but I'm struggling with, we're only in August and we know the budget that's coming is very, very difficult. It's going to be difficult for all of us to have to work through, and it's going to be harder on the public, I think. So yeah, this is tough.
Yeah, I agree. I understand exactly what Dave's saying, exactly what Dan's saying. I guess my concern is 1,600 times what, X, 10, 16,000, 20, or, we keep rolling that ball. Do I think this is a worthy candidate? Absolutely. Do I think that we are broke as ever? Absolutely. And, I think we all up here know what's coming around the corner. And I think that 50% knowing what we all know here is doing them right. And I think that hopefully they can pick up the other 1,600 through donations or however else they make money with the Blue Barn, whatever it might be. We are just not, and I'd love to give everybody a fee waiver. I mean, but we just don't have it. We just don't have it. And that's where I fall. And I'm worried about this 1,600. It's only this 1,600, but we start cumulative effect of this could be 16,000, 30,000. And that's the part that seems to catch up to us a little bit more than just individual.
And I understand the issue, the biggest issue I have with the whole idea is the fact that you put that on Trent and Susie, and this is something that they didn't budget for. I mean, it's numbers, people, that wasn't in the budget last year. You know, it's like, we didn't plan on giving away 10 people $1,600. I still would say that if we ended up paying 10 different entities $1,600 that are providing a service that we can't provide for any cost, we would not be able to provide that service. We don't have the fiscal ability to provide the services that these nonprofit organizations provide for our county. And if they all came and asked for a fee waiver, it would probably not amount to that much, because we don't, if you look at it, there's a few in each of our districts, nonprofits, fire departments, Golden Age Senior Center, these outfits that we all know, that we all depend on, that all told, there's probably less than 20 in the county that are the ones that are doing all of the work that we aren't doing. And it would be different if it's a nonprofit that's providing a benefit to the county is different than if it's a nonprofit that's providing a benefit to the county we can't replace. I read these fee waiver requests and it's like, okay, that's a benefit, but we have 14 other entities doing the same thing, or we can live without it. Then yeah, we'll have this discussion. This is something that we cannot provide. We cannot replace. That's
okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would just say that unfortunately, we're in a situation where we look at, we cannot provide, we cannot replace, and we're comparing that with what we are mandated to provide. And where will we get the funding for that? And while this may look small on paper, I hear the cumulative impact. And when we're making those decisions, it might be easier to make this decision had it come to us 4 weeks from now or 6 weeks from now, when we actually have other numbers in front of us and other folks than just this. And we're done.
Yeah, and
It's hard.
I do think maybe since Trent's come aboard that we've reined in the fee waiver thing. I think on at least 3 of our supervisorship, I think we gave, I forget what it was, 10 or 20,000 to the Montessori school. Which right now it sounds crazy to me, but we did. I forget what the number was, but it was a huge number. And I don't know things like that. And I mean, that was probably the biggest one we ever gave out that I can remember. But you know, we got to rein it in somewhere. You know, we got to start somewhere. I don't want to start with, you know, anything, but here we are. You know, we need to start somewhere. And I think 50% is given a lot, really, when we don't have anything. I mean, you see what's coming up around the corner. We're going to be losing things that are probably going to pull on the heartstrings of Trinity County a lot more than the Golden Age Center, is my opinion.
Okay, I just want to acknowledge here before we go into our vote, I hear the arguments on both sides, and I think there can be very good cases made for both. Where at least I come down before we vote is, as I've heard some people mention, there are services we are required to provide that we are not providing to the extent we know that we should. We do not have as many sheriffs as we know we should have, so we can't respond as quickly. CEO Tuttle just earlier today spoke about the public-facing departments that can't maintain the hours that we're obligated to because we don't have the funds. Those are what we're required to do versus what we have a heart to do. And so I think we can't lose sight that I have a feeling if we were having this discussion the week after the board hearings, the budget hearings, the answer would be 0. It's really, you know, we are in a place where when you say waive $1,600, then you just took 5% of somebody's pay. And that position could be at risk. So we have to realize that the decisions we're making are that specific. There is no room for maneuvering. We are going to be making difficult decisions and cuts. And in my view, the 50% is a generous offer.
So I guess I would ask you then, with knowing what's around the corner, which is pure terrible, why the leniency in giving anything? I mean, we need everything. We're cutting, Heidi's NACO budget just to try to keep in line. You said that if this was a week after our budget talks, we would say zero. Well, we know that up here right now, that we would probably all say zero. So why are we all saying yes? So we were two before. And I'm not.
Well, you can make another motion if you like, but
No,
otherwise.
I know what's coming down the tracks. We all do. It's not pretty for anything or any department. And, we're really at the every dollar counts part. And I'm not picking on the Golden Age Center or any other, fee waiver. But I know that we are going to be taking service cuts in this county that are the deepest cuts we've probably seen, that will pull on the heartstrings of this county more than any of the cuts we've made in the past that I can remember. And, I hate to say we're counting dollars at a time, but I think we are. I really do think that we are. And I'm not trying to not give out a fee waiver, but I'm, trying to protect what we don't even have. Which is I guess my goal or my interest.
So is there another motion, or do we vote on these two?
Vote on the one.
We can vote on whichever one.
Okay. We'll call the vote.
We're going to vote on waiving the entire fee. Supervisor Frazier.
Supervisor Cox.
Oh, Supervisor Cox.
No.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
No.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
No.
Chairman Lewiler.
No.
Okay. Vote for 50% of the fee. Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chairman Lewiler.
Aye. A little bit helps. I hope that helps, Dave. Thank you. Really, truly thank you for all that you guys do. Item F3, Grand Jury. Approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 23-24 for Grand Jury Department 2050, increasing services and supplies by $3,165, and approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 23-24 for General Fund Contingency, Department 9901, decreasing provisions for contingency by $3,165. Increase in general fund appropriations in the amount of $3,165. The current general fund contingency balance is $142,809 if other requests are approved.
Thank you, Chair. I'll address this one to start with. So this is a request to cover expenses from last year for the grand jury. They have overextended their budget by the approximate $3,000 that's listed there in the report. Currently, the grand jury operates with, this is just a statutory driven mechanism that we do have to support. It's run by the courts. We coordinate with the courts. We pay the administrative bills for it. This board sees the results typically at the end of the calendar year of whatever reports the grand jury produces. But these are the administrative costs associated with running that program. Currently, the grand jury runs off of 19 individuals. You will see next board member a request to reduce that down to 11 members, which will help offset some of these administrative costs. We are also going to, from the admin department area, we're going to also work closer with the grand jury administrative staff to ensure that, they are operating as efficiently as they can, and that we are only covering those minimal meetings that we have to cover statutorily, and not any other meetings that they are choosing to do that aren't maybe as required. So this request is one of those that, it's necessary, it's needed, it's based upon expenditures that have already taken place. But moving forward, we are going to change some procedures and practices to help ensure that this, shouldn't happen again in the future.
Thank you. Any questions for CAO Tuthill?
No.
I just have one. I should know this, but who actually administers this program? Who's controlling these decisions on this money?
So technically, the decisions on the money is us as a county.
Right.
It's overseen and administered by the presiding judge, Superior Courts.
Okay, thank you. Didn't want to make that assumption, but
Question about accountability when we do go over budget on this. Where does that fall?
As far as accountability, I mean, it falls back to the grand jury and the members, probably, me ultimately, because I haven't had as many conversations, with the grand jury administrative staff as I probably should have, and established those specific procedures, written procedures. These are things that have just kind of happened over the years, and they've always been covered.
Right.
But we're in the process of changing some of that, so it doesn't
We've
just happen.
never been this tight, and now here we are making those adjustments. Thank you.
And well, I can see you can get $3,165 just from the mileage adjustments that have come down in the last few years.
Right.
What percentage of their budget is this?
Susie, do you have
about a little less than 20,000, so you're talking 12%, 10%.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll move into public comment. Any in the room? Any online?
I have no raised hands.
Okay. On this matter?
Oh, no, I don't know.
There won't be public comment in general anymore because we're down to specific items of the agenda. So at this point, we will consider a motion.
Oh, I'll move to approve as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Dan.
Supervisor Frazier seconds. Any discussion? Have the vote.
Supervisor Frazier,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox,
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan,
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris,
Aye.
Chairman Lutwiler.
Aye. And I just want to thank you, CAO Tuthill, for stepping up, taking accountability for that and having a process to move forward. Like you said, every little bit's going to help, and attention needs to be paid. Thank you. F4, Human Resources, adopt a side letter agreement with the Trinity County General Unit, adding the peer specialist position to the list of classifications eligible for standby on-call compensation effective July 1st, 2024. No impact to the general fund.
Morning, and happy birthday, Chairman Lutwiler.
Thank you.
Supervisors of the board. Layla Cassis, Director of Human Resources, Risk Manager, here to answer any questions. Basically, though, this is something that we talked about in negotiations, and it's here to help with the mobile crisis center project that we've put together in the behavioral health area for the community, so that the paraspecialists can help with that as well.
Okay. Any questions? Any public comment? None in the room?
I have no raised hands.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve F4 as stated.
I will second.
Any discussion?
Supervisor Carpenter Harris. Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chairman Lutwiler.
Aye. F5, Human Resources. Take the following actions regarding the Legal Secretary 3 and the Legal Secretary Senior classifications effective July 1st, 2024. 1, approve a side letter agreement with the General Unit adding the classifications of Legal Secretary 3 and Legal Secretary Senior. And 2, approve a side letter agreement with the Management and Confidential Unit removing the classifications of Legal Secretary 3 and Legal Secretary Senior. And 3, revise the salary range for Legal Secretary 3 to G182 and Legal Secretary Senior to G192.
This is Layla again. Basically, we're moving the positions from the management unit to the general unit as they really don't have management responsibilities. The positions are vacant at the moment. They would like to think about recruiting, though we all know with the budget we have, we probably won't be able to. But that's the intent of getting it fixed before, because the position really isn't a management position, but a lead position instead.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, any public comment?
I have no raised hands.
I'll make a motion to approve item F5 for human resources.
Thank you. Motion and a second. All right. Any discussion? All right, we'll call the vote.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Chair Lutwiler.
Aye. All right. Last item on the regular agenda. F6, Information Technology. Authorize the reallocation of ARP, American Rescue Plan funds, to cover the implementation and first-year costs associated with converting the county's website to a new platform hosted by Civic Plus, and authorize the county administrative officer to sign any necessary contracts associated with this change. No fiscal or no impact to the general fund.
Hello, I'm Michael Singleton. I'm the CIO of Trinity County. The request is basically to use American Rescue Plan funds, which the department has already been allocated to pay for the implementation in the first year of the Civic Plus website. Initially, we had allocated $4,500 to move our website off-site, to have it hosted by someone, that and also DNS services. This is an expansion of that original request and the use of more funds, more of the ARP funds, to form this, to hire Civic Plus to get the website built and to also support it for a year. So the request is for, as opposed to $4,500, for $29,971 of ARP funds, which have already been approved for IT, for the use of those funds for the Civic Plus website.
Any questions? All right, any public comment?
I have no raised hands.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
I will set.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris seconds. And just for discussion, I'll just say I appreciate all the hard work that went into making this selection. I know I have been on the peripheral just a little bit. I saw the back and forth and a lot of due diligence being done to make sure we chose the right partner. And based on what I saw and heard directly from some of the folks with Civic Plus, you know, we as people that work for the county and are supported by the county can expect a much better experience under this new platform and much more administratively streamlined and more feature rich. So this is going to be
Yeah.
great.
It's going to be a newer website, so it'll look different. It'll have enhanced features, and I think it'll probably prompt more civic engagement than we currently have.
Yeah,
May I
sure hope
ask a
so.
question? Or may I ask?
Sure.
Will this include department sites as well? Like, is it for the whole?
As we currently have.
Pardon me?
As we currently have. Now, when you say department
Like,
sites, you mean?
when you click on and you go to different departments, everybody's website's kind of set up a little bit differently. So is this overarching work gonna kind of smooth all of, create a more of a, I guess, streamlined look?
When you say, did you mean uniform look?
Yes,
or-
uniform. Yes, thank you.
Yes, hopefully it will.
Okay, good.
That is the plan. Everything will have the same theme.
Okay,
Departments will have some flexibility into how they design their page,
okay,
but it should look very, very similar when you go from department to department.
okay, great. That sounds wonderful.
All right, we'll call the vote.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye.
Chairman Leweiler.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Have
Thank
fun
you.
with that.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, We're just starting.
Yeah. All right, before we move to closed session, have a previous closed session report. F1 Government Code Section 54954.5C, Conference with Legal Counsel, anticipated litigation number of cases 2, claim TRI 240009, inmate Swain, incident at jail, no action taken, and claim TRI 23-0017, inmate Lewandowski, incident at jail, direction given to staff. And with that, we will be moving towards closed session. We have one item, Government Code Section 54954.5F, conference with labor negotiators, county's designated representatives, Layla Cassis, Susie Hawkins, Margaret Long, employee organizations, general unit. Do we have any public comment?
I have no raised hands.
Okay, with that, we will move into closed session. Thank you, everyone.